Hey everyone, it's Ray from the Teach Better team, and I have Brittany with me. She just hosted the most epic mastery chat that I've participated in a long time. There was so much discussion on leadership, and we are going to dive into the entire thing. Make sure you throw a hello and your name and what you're up to, where you're watching from in the comments. And if you have any questions for Brittany, we are going to be answering your questions live as well if you want to talk further about leadership. So we'll be right back. Hey everyone, welcome to the Mastery Chat recap. Brittany, you just hosted the most amazing chat. How are you feeling right now?
I've got so much adrenaline. I don't know how I'm going to go to bed after this.
Honestly, because that is like a speedy hour chat. Is it not so fast?
Yes, it was so fast. I was like, how is it over already?
I feel like I always look at the clock, and it's usually like the 15-minute mark. I'm like, oh, okay, like we're getting somewhere, we're moving and grooving. And then you look up again and it's like 59. I'm like, the hour went so fast.
I was like, how is it already the sixth question?
I know, so crazy. Are you like a Twitter chat like connoisseur? Have you hosted like a million chats?
No, that was the first one that I've hosted. I've been a part of a few of them, but that was the first one. Yeah.
The first one you ever hosted,
Yeah.
Brittany. You did so good. I know we've talked before. You were also a guest on the Teach Better Talk podcast. I'm confident in your episode you won like the Teach Better Talk trophy. I'm gonna tell you, there's not a Mastery Chat trophy, but if there was, you would have won it. This was an awesome conversation. I can't believe it was your first.
Thank you. I had so much fun doing it. It was so much fun.
Well, Brittany, we have a ton of people popping in right now. Jeff saying hi. Brad Hughes is here. Hey, Brad. It looks like Livia's jumping in. These are all people just already sharing not only how much they love being connected to you, but also how amazing the chat was. Before we get too far into the questions, the topic, and everything in between, will you kind of tell everybody here, like if they haven't been connected with you before, maybe they weren't able to pop over to the Twitter chat and they're just getting the recap right now. Who are you? What do you do in education?
Yeah, so hello, I am Dr. Brittany Rincon. I am a fourth grade teacher from New Jersey. I am also in charge of the fourth grade team, and I do a couple other like curriculum coordinating types of roles at my school. Yes, so I love all things leadership. And I also am the host of the Teacher Leader podcast, which is now a part of the Teach Better team. Woo woo.
Love it. It's such a good podcast, Brittany. I'm personally subscribed. I really like listening to it for myself. And so it's a really easy one to recommend, not only because it's obviously a part of the Teach Better podcast network, but for me, I get so much value from your episodes, so you can never stop. It's like my PD that I listen to in the morning. So I really appreciate that about you.
Well, thank you. That's such a huge compliment.
It's so good. I am a listener. Of all of you, if you're a podcast person, like definitely go subscribe to Brittany's podcast because she shares so many tips and tricks in that podcast, in addition to the multitude of tips and tricks that were shared during this week's Twitter chat. So why did you pick leadership as a focus for the chat? Where did that come from?
Yeah, so my podcast is the Teacher Leader podcast, right? So like my whole life right now is teacher leadership. It was like the focus of my dissertation that I just wrapped up in the spring. And yes, I know I'm a COVID grad.
So proud of you. That is a huge accomplishment.
I know, but it's been my world for the last couple of years, teacher leadership, and I'm really passionate about it. And I work with a lot of teachers who still don't fully understand what it looks like or what it means, or really take on that leadership role for themselves. So it's definitely something that I really love to talk about and get everyone else's perspective on.
What I really appreciate about tonight's chat was not only it was focused on leadership, but really finding the supports that we need to give our teachers so that they can really see themselves as the leaders they are. And so I thought that your questions were crafted so well. It really took us on a journey. One of my favorite questions you asked was asking about like pieces of advice, which I just saw everybody commenting like, ooh, just wrote that one down or save this tweet for later. So there was a lot of engagement and excitement around sharing advice. Was there a question you were excited to ask the group? Maybe there was like an exciting answer you expected to get out of people?
Yeah, so the one I was most excited about was actually the win time question, like give me a win in the last couple of weeks, because I feel like everybody's been definitely like more on the downside, not as like excited. But like if you stop and think about it, like something good has happened to you in the last couple of weeks, like share it. Like let's reflect and like pull a positive.
Well, and it really forces you to think back, like, you know, a lot, you said this already, a lot of people have been feeling the negativity. So taking an intentional moment to find the positive, if people weren't already doing that as a choice throughout their day, you really did force them to do that. What was the positive that you shared?
Oh my God. So I didn't get to that part because I was like responding to everyone else's positive and I was like, way to go. It's all about the small wins. And then next, I was like 2 questions later.
Well, so share it now. If you could have answered that question, because we all know Twitter chats are so fast, and especially when you're hosting. For those of you that are watching right now, we'd love to get you involved in sometime hosting Mastery Chat because it's a different experience. It's a different way to engage with the chat. And you're right, it goes even faster for the host. So if you were asked that question and you were given an opportunity to respond, what would have been your response? What's a win you've had recently?
Yeah, one of like the biggest wins that I had recently was last week. I actually went out with my team. Like we did like a very like socially distanced, like lunch in the middle of the day. Like we had a break in our schedule, and I took everybody out for lunch because we had just like wrapped up report cards and everything, and like comments and all of that good stuff. So it was like a great win. Like we're still a team. We've like made it through this like big, huge thing together. We're still making it on the other end. We're alive, and let's celebrate. And it was great.
I love that. For everybody listening, I'd love for you to take a moment while Brittany and I are talking and share out either the win you shared during the chat or share out a different win that you've had throughout the week. I know, Brittany, one of the ones that I shared specifically with that question was about student conferencing that I've been able to do. That's been a really big focus for my classroom with my students this year, is really trying to get them talking and engaging and discussing content. And so every day we're hosting conferences for students to share and celebrate their understanding. And that really has been a huge win for me because just about right now that we're months and months into this during the craziest year ever, students are now like creating that dialogue themselves versus me having to facilitate, where I can sit back and watch them be leaders within their own peer group. And I really love seeing that.
That is so amazing. And like you think like the kids are going to have a hard time adjusting, and nope, they don't. They jump right into it.
They figure it out. I love it. You asked a ton of questions about leadership. And one of the ones that I did say before that I want to bring back up is that advice category. You had people sharing from around the world, people that pop in for Mastery Chat every single Thursday at 8:00 Eastern. And they're essentially sharing advice. And a lot of the advice could apply to new educators, but it really was all educators, no matter what type of educator you are, advice to kind of be a stronger leader. Did you see any responses with that question that you were like, ooh, this one was really good? Or did you completely miss that question? How was that for you?
No, I love that question. I think I heard a lot of like popular sayings, like, you hear like when you're like first starting out as a teacher. But one of the ones that I really loved, I don't remember who said it. I would have to go back through it. But one of the best ones was like, don't sleep on the veteran teacher. And I was like, yes, that is so true. Like they have great advice. Like sometimes like you might think like the younger tech savvy teacher like has all the Google answers, but in reality, like, don't sleep on the veteran teacher. Like they're going to surprise you. And I was like, yes, like stop, listen, and learn. That was like my response.
That was one of the biggest themes I saw. And Patty is the best. Patty, thank you for you're just going to take all the advice, put it in a spreadsheet. That's what we need. We need the encouragement. We need the advice. Patty, share that with me. I'll help you do that. We've had so many people so far continuously sharing their wins, which I always love seeing. But that was a common theme I saw, Brittany, of people sharing advice that truly had to do with listening. Why do you think listening was a common theme when we're talking about leadership? Leaders are supposed to be talking and leading the pack, aren't they?
Well, if no one's listening, then who are you leading, right? So if you don't listen to what the people that you are like supposed to be guiding along to what their needs are, then you're not leading anyone. You're not helping them, and they're not going to turn to you and take your advice or your guidance. I think the theme of listening was really popular because especially now we're realizing the importance of like stopping and paying attention to what's going on and like really being proactive and like thinking ahead as opposed to just like plugging holes right now. Like we're kind of past that. Like it's been a little while now. We're really trying to listen and learn from the people around us.
No, I couldn't agree more. And I think that you hit the nail on the head that for a long time it was trying to triage, trying to support. And now we're like, okay, we have lived this for a bit. We are getting kind of more comfortable with the unknown, more comfortable with just needing to be flexible. And the reality is that listening is going to be the most effective way to support anybody during these times. And if you weren't doing it before, it's vital that we're doing it now. And I was really glad to see that theme. I've been doing some of the daily drop-ins. I'm sure you've seen the Teach Better team has been live every single morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. And a recent one I did with Dave Schmittou, we talked about that he feels like leadership really has to do with asking more questions than giving answers. What are your thoughts on asking more questions than anything else as a leader?
Oh, I love that. I've mentioned that in one of my podcast episodes. And one of my colleagues, I remember, was like reading this book, and I think it's called like The 5 Whys, but you're basically just supposed to say why like 5 times, right? Before you like give any type of other answer. And that really has always stuck with me. And I think that's really what it is. It's like, you don't want to give anyone the answer because that's not helping them. You want them to come to the answer on their own. And the only way they're going to figure it out is if you keep asking them, annoyingly probably sometimes, but just like, well, why do you think that is? Well, what could we do about that?
Yeah. Have you ever tried the 5 Whys? Because I actually heard that at a conference. I've heard it in multiple different people just giving that advice. It's not easy to do. You get to like the 3rd why, and then you're like, oh, make it stop.
I've tried it honestly with my students, and they get annoyed. But I think I've tried it with my students and not so much with my teachers because they know what I'm doing. They're like, okay, I get it. Like, I'll stop.
But students, though, are perfect to try it on too, because that's a lot of what I feel like conferencing is you're like, hey, this is the scenario. And then they're like, well, this is what I can, see from the scenario. And you're like, why is that? And really having them dive deeper into their thinking is so effective. Yeah, teachers, you might have to like trick them a little bit. They might catch on to that pattern really fast.
So true.
It's so funny, Brittany. Well, I like to ask every person that hosts Mastery Chat that I'm able to go live with, because I feel like this is the special part of the chat. Like I know the chat itself, an hour-long conversation on Twitter is so powerful. But when I get to sneak in and interview the host afterwards as, like a part of the Teach Better team Mastery Chat recap, I'm always really excited because I have this key question I want to ask. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but I want you to think back to when you agreed to host Mastery Chat, whenever that was. And think back to when you decided this was going to be your topic, whenever that was. What was your major takeaway that you wanted every member who chose to pop in for a question or join us for the entire hour-long conversation? What do you hope they're walking away with tonight in terms of, after all the great conversation that was had?
Oh, yes. Okay. So for me, the biggest point was thinking like, this is not the time to stop, right? So like teacher leadership is so important. And this is like the best time. And I know that sounds like funny because of like, it's a pandemic, but this is the best time to really figure out who's going to rise to the challenge. Every teacher I know is being scrappy and innovative and like really figuring it out. And I don't want anyone to sleep on that. I really want like the leaders in charge to realize like, this is where you're going to separate out the people who you really want to push and become the future leaders of your school. And that was the goal of when I came up with this topic.
Oh my gosh, what an amazing takeaway, and something that I feel like every single educator should be reflecting on, not only tonight, but hopefully all week long as you get into winter break, taking some time to really think about not only who will rise, but also who do you want to be? Where do you want to fall on that scale? Are you going to be somebody who's going to find the normal that is ahead of us and then go back to what you were like 5 years ago? Or are you going to be a different, a better, a stronger educator? That is a very, very important question for us to be considering. Brittany, I know this is a dumb question, but where will you fall on that scale? You think you're changing for the better?
Yeah, definitely. I think I am not the same teacher I was, before this. And I'm going to be different even, towards the end of this. I have learned so much about myself and about the leader that I want to be. And I've got to meet so many amazing educators through all of this. And I mean, I started my podcast during all of this as well. Yeah. So I'm excited, actually. Like, I'm excited to see, who I end up becoming at the end of this.
Oh, wow. I am excited to see who all of you become. All of you listening, we want to know. We want an update. So within a few weeks, within a few months, please send us a DM. We'd love to hear about where you're falling on that scale. And if you need help, if you're somebody well, I want to turn out better, but I don't know how, choose to connect with people, choose to have those hard conversations. There's so much support out there. Brittany, I know you're doing a lot of support with educators that you work with, but you also provide so much support to your virtual community. Can you tell us a little bit about how people can stay connected to you directly if they're thinking through wanting to grow their PLN, wanting to learn more about leadership? How can they stay connected to you?
Definitely. So I'm definitely active on social media. So following me on Twitter, at Britt Rincon, and also my podcast is a great source as well. I always have a new topic each week where I talk about teacher leadership, or I even interview teachers who are being leaders, whether it's online or in person, and they always have a wealth of knowledge. And I'm also on Instagram as well, so you can totally send me a DM. I love talking to people there. Yeah, and I'm at Teacher Leader Coach on Instagram.
Perfect. Yes. No, I really, really have enjoyed connecting with you. I know that we connected initially on social media, and then you were featured on the Teach Better Talk podcast. So if you guys want to hear more from Brittany outside of connecting with her on social media, outside of listening and subscribing and rating and reviewing her podcast, which, by the way, guys, that just really helps. If you are listening to content you love, do a rating and review for Brittany, because podcasts that have more ratings and reviews actually get, suggested to other listeners, and then you kind of grow and spread the message. So I'm sure that she would really appreciate if you did that. But then, Brittany, your episode on Teach Better Talk was truly one for the books. I loved chatting with you. And I know we joked about your son came up as part of the conversation. And I just really, really love the work you're doing. And I want to make sure that everybody in our network chooses to connect with you, because we need more people that are empowering other people. Does that make sense?
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree with you.
So important. Well, for everyone else, please choose to join us tomorrow morning for the last daily drop-in of 2020, at least for this point in time. We have so much going on with the team, but Brittany, you have truly added so much excitement and joy to our Thursday night, and we so appreciate that you hosted Mastery Chat with us. Obviously, if you are watching here, please go connect with Brittany, and if you need anything, please feel free to reach out. We all love connecting with other educators. We really want to be here as a resource. Brittany, thank you again for just all that you do.
Thank you so much for having me. I had the best time. It was so much fun.
Oh, so good. For everyone else, we'll see you soon, and have a wonderful night.